Subscribe to the Mr. Positive Live YouTube channel. Today on Positive Talk Daily, this is my 30-day review of using this, the HMD Vive, as my main primary phone for 30 days. Okay, this was an inexpensive $30 smartphone that I bought about a month ago, over a month ago. It's been 5 weeks. And I've tested everything from the cameras, making phone calls, gaming on this. I've done everything from using social media apps like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and everything down to my Gmail, Facebook, and everything else. We're going to go over the positives. Overall, it has a 90 hertz refresh rate. It's a 720p panel. You do have a 6.5-inch screen, so it is capable of a refresh rate of 90 hertz, which is nice to see on a $30 phone. That's pretty nice. Overall, it's not bad. You can see it runs pretty good thanks to that 90 hertz refresh rate. 3 gigabytes of RAM. That's one of my problems with this phone. 3 gigs of RAM. Even phones at $40 are coming with 4 gigs. But 3, it's fine. We're not going to complain. You're getting a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, 13 megapixel main camera, and a 2 megapixel micro camera. The 2 megapixel is trash. I don't know why they released these two, a simple 2 megapixel micro camera. We're not taking pictures of ants. I mean, if you're micro photography and you like that, I guess it's fine. The video recording maxes out at 1080p. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It'll get the job done if you're doing Zoom calls or something like that. The microphone sounds pretty good. Overall, let's get into the positives of the phone. Again, very bright screen, 400 nits of brightness. You are getting a nice 6.5-inch screen. You're getting 4,000 milliamp hour battery on here, and there is Face Unlock. Negatives are no fingerprint. You just get the standard power button, volume rocker. You get a stereo. You do get a headphone jack at the bottom, so that's a positive. Another negative is it's only 10-watt charging, but that's fine. No stereo speakers. You do get a mono speaker here. You do get a noise-canceling microphone at the top, and the selfie camera does suck. So just being honest, the 5 megapixel camera is trash. Pictures come out blurry. I did send video to a friend on WhatsApp, and the video quality was even a little bit glitchy. So not the best selfie camera on here. It might look good from here, but the video quality is pretty poor. Now for standard photos, it's fine if you have good lighting and stuff like that, but definitely not a camera phone, okay? But for $30, what are you gonna do? This is a pretty good deal. You can get this phone on Straight Talk for $25 right now. So it's probably the cheapest phone you're gonna get right now. Again, you get $25. You can get this phone, 6.5-inch, 4,000 milliamp hour battery. The battery life is pretty solid on this phone. I worked, took this phone with me, had high brightness on. At the end of the day, I still had 60% left. So the 4,000 milliamp hour battery, it charges actually pretty fast. Even though it's 10 watts, within an hour, it was almost at 95%. So it's not terrible at all. The battery's pretty good on here. Face Unlock works pretty solid, had no issues, even with dim lighting. The main camera takes pretty solid photos. The video quality is okay. It does max out at 1080p at 30 frames per second. Phone call quality was actually really solid, and there is Wi-Fi calling on here. Okay. Another negative is there's no NFC on here. There is no NFC on here, so you will be kind of limited. There is a battery saver option on here. This is running Android 14. No updates at all to Android 15, but there will be security updates. HMD does state that there will be security updates. Another downer for the phone is HMD is selling this phone for $120 on their website. It's the same phone, and it's advertised for the same price. Some positives of the phone: the build quality. It is a matte plastic, so it's really, really nice and comfortable to hold in the hand. It looks more expensive from far away. It's actually a really nice, solid phone. It's built well. It's got some heft to it, too. So it's not built cheap or anything. It might look cheap, but it's not. It's actually a really, really solid phone. So HMD's done a really good job on the design of the phone. And there's really no thick bezels on here. It's actually a really, really solid phone. It does have one little, notch, but, I mean, you have a punch hole. A lot of companies like Samsung, iPhone, still doing the large, they're still doing that whole dynamic island and stuff. This just gives you a nice little punch hole camera, and you're good to go. HMD's done a really good job with the design of this phone, so that's a pass easily. The design of the phone is nice. The buttons, they feel really good and clicky, so that's nice as well. And it's actually nice and comfortable to hold in your pocket, so I had no problems. There are no sharp edges, so when I'm talking on the phone, it's nice and comfortable, actually. Overall, it's inexpensive. You can walk right in, come right out of Walmart. You get yourself a decent 4G LTE smartphone. No, there's no 5G. The other positive thing is you're getting the Snapdragon 680 chipset. And just a few years ago, that was a mid-range chipset. Okay, that chipset was actually in the Google Pixel 6a. So you're getting that same chipset in here. It's really solid. The only downfall is the 3 gigabytes of RAM. You can't hold a lot of applications, and you're only getting 64 gigs of internal storage. We would have liked to see 128. So you do have to expand the micro SD card support because there's 13 gigs coming off of Android 14 on this device. So having an additional maybe 64 or 128 gigs would help this phone in a lot of areas. Okay. Now, using apps kind of like Meet Me and stuff, it did struggle a little bit. I'll give you an idea though. Gaming with this would be just fine, but make sure you're using an SD card. You can use Call of Duty. You can play Call of Duty Mobile on low settings. You can play some games on here. It doesn't load too bad. That 90 hertz refresh rate keeps things running kind of smooth. You can see there's some hiccups here and there. It could also be our internet connection. But again, we're running Meet Me. Meet Me is a pretty heavy intensive app. That's a video chat app, and it's not glitching. Things are loading just fine. Give it a second here, and you'll see in a minute that it can do video and stuff, no problem. See? So you can do things on here. The other thing is the screen's pretty washed out, okay? It's got a pretty washed out display. I got this in direct light. It does have 4,000, not 4,000, it's got 400 nits of brightness, so it's not the worst we've seen. But again, it's a pretty washed out panel, so it's not the brightest of panel. I've got phones in here that are much, much brighter than this and can probably do a better job overall. Okay, so let's get into the positive of the phone. Again, the mono speaker sounds pretty good. It actually gets pretty loud. It's not distorted. Shockingly, it's not distorted. So sound is pretty good. Okay, sound is pretty good. The screen is passable. It's bright, but it gets washed out. So it is a 720p. It's an IPS panel. Overall, the design is pretty solid. The design is what you would expect from a more expensive phone, maybe in $150 to $200 range. You're getting a matte back. You're getting, decent. Overall, it's a decent phone. The buttons feel really good. HMD's really done a good job with this phone. So as far as the build quality, it's solid. It does have Gorilla Glass 3, so you're not going to have to worry about scratching. It does have some splash proof on here as well. No 5G here. We do see 5G phones right now in the $50 range, but this is not a 5G phone. You can play most games on it. That's a positive. You can play Call of Duty Mobile. Any heavy intense app, gaming app, as long as you have settings turned down. That's what's great about the Snapdragon 680 chipset. This was a mid-range chipset no more than 4 years ago. So it was a mid-range chipset no more than 4 years ago. It was in the Pixel 6a. So a pretty decent chipset here. You're able to game. You're able to take pretty decent overall speeds on this phone. Geekbench numbers brought it up to 670. So it wasn't bad at all, really, for a $30 smartphone. This is the same chipset that's also in the Moto G Play 2024 from last year. So you're going to get good performance. The Moto G may be a little bit better because it's running 4 gigs of RAM versus 3. That's the only downfall of this phone, is that lack of 3 gigabytes of RAM, which you can't have a lot of applications open. If you're using one application at a time, it's going to run just fine. But if you have 3 or 4 applications, this thing's going to slow down to a crawl. I've had apps crash with more. I've had 5 apps open at once in the background, and one app would crash like Meet Me. So if you close out a few of the heavier apps, if you're using Facebook, Instagram, you're fine there. If you're using TikTok, this thing works fine with TikTok, but if you got a bunch of apps open, TikTok's going to crash. Okay, just being honest. And the same thing will go on the Moto G as well. So these are, remember, these are budget smartphones. But positives are good chipset. That is a solid chipset, the Moto G with the Moto G and this one are running is a Snapdragon 680 chipset. So you're getting really solid performance. My last 30 days using this phone, I've only had one app crash, and that was TikTok. Outside of that, Meet Me worked okay. A little sluggish at times. Facebook most of the time ran fine. And 90 hertz, it actually does a pretty good job. So it is snappy for a $30 smartphone. That's pretty good. Cameras, they're okay. The main camera's a 13 megapixel. It does okay. It ain't the worst camera I've ever seen. I did do some video calling with my friend on WhatsApp, so it does work okay for that. The main camera does, this selfie camera, it's trash. That I will agree. Getting into the negatives of the phone now, doesn't have a fingerprint unlock. You're stuck with face unlock. So let's say you had to wear a mask. It's not very, I mean, the face unlock does work, but it's not the greatest, okay? The other thing is the charging is kind of slow. It's 10 watts, so even for 2025 standards, that's still pretty slow. Let's see here. I put the headphones in. The headphone jack wasn't that great. It didn't get that loud, so just be aware if you're using headphones or even wireless headphones, it's not going to be the loudest thing. So you might want to stick to a different phone if you're looking for loud, sound and stuff. The main speaker on here was good, but using headphones wasn't that great. Overall, voice quality was good. Not too many problems with this phone over the last 30 days. The only problem was really the camera, and a few apps would crash here and there. Outside of that, the last 30 days, this was a pretty good phone. The lack of 5G wasn't a big deal because most of the phones I've used are running 4G LTE anyway. It would be nice to have 5G, but I'm not going to complain. The Snapdragon 680 is a very capable chipset. It gets the job done. We would have liked to seen 4 gigs of RAM on here, maybe 6. But the fact that it gives you virtual memory of up to, and it does, it gives you virtual memory that you can turn on in settings and go to storage. And you can turn on an extended 3 gigs that gives you 6 gigs. But it does slow the phone down. You will notice that. So just be aware of that. A lot of the Samsung devices do the same thing. I think it's something that's in the Android system that allows you to use virtual RAM, okay? Just be aware of that. Overall, last 30 days, this is a solid smartphone from HMD that did a very good job on the design. The overall package, they had to cut some corners. We know that for $30. The fact that they're trying to sell this on their website for $100 to $80, $120 to $80 is garbage. Do not buy this on HMD's website. If you see this for sale at a Walmart, yes, $30, walk in, you get yourself a pretty capable 4G LTE smartphone that is quite capable of performing pretty solid overall. It's running the same chipset that's in the Pixel 6a, so you're getting really solid performance. You're getting average cameras at all, and overall the performance in my 30 days of usage, pictures were fine in good lighting conditions. Gaming worked just fine with low settings turned down kind of medium to low. And as long as you have a micro SD card, this gets a pass. HMD Vive is a great phone for $30. It does get a pass. I give this phone a B minus. B minus. That's a pretty good deal for a $30 smartphone. Again, great design. It gets pretty bright, and the speaker on board is pretty loud for a mono speaker. For Mr. Positive Live, I'm Mr. Positive.